Hello, this is Barry O'Connell, and today we're going to be talking about the budget, and specifically the $3 billion budget shortfall. And I thought we'd go over the budget process in the legislature because I don't think people quite understand that as well as it could be understood. So we're not going to get into, your eighth grade civics class of explaining every step of the bill. So if you're looking for an explanation of first reading, second reading, third reading, this probably isn't for you. On the other hand, if you want to understand how the money moves through the Maryland legislature, this should be interesting, I hope. Let's talk about the players. The first person on the left is Bill Ferguson. And if I cut away for a cough, I'm trying not to cough into the microphone, but I do have a cough today. Bill Ferguson on the left. In the center is Governor Wes Moore, and then we have Speaker Adrienne Jones. And on the right, we've got the budget. This is the budget from last year. Probably the budget from this year is going to look pretty much the same because it's going to be the same spending priorities. Numbers will be a little bit different, but it's not going to change that terribly much. Wes Moore is going to keep a pretty tame budget. We don't expect much difference, except fiscal frugality. Now let's talk about the next level down. No disrespect meant on the left, Ben Barnes. Ben is chairman of Appropriations. That's on the House side. They deal with the budgetary aspects of the individual bills. What does that bill cost? Not every bill, not how do they all fit together. How does an individual bill affect the budget? And then on the right, we've got Senator Guy Guzzone, who is chairman of Budget and Taxation. Now, in the House, it's appropriations. In the Senate, it's budget and taxation. The zones committee deals more with how much does it affect the budget as a whole, rather than how much does this individual bill cost. Between the two of them, they cover a wide range of circumstances. Then we get to the DLS, the legislative analysts in the Department of Legislative Services, DLS. They break down each bill and they talk about how much does that individual bill cost. All right, let's talk a little bit about the money. I think I got a slide out of order, but forgive me. It's a rough Saturday with this cough. We've got the Maryland tax collection from 2014. Trust me, it hasn't changed that much. A few percent here or there, not even a few percent, tenths of a percent. It's pretty close to the same. It's pretty much close to the same every year. 46% of the revenue comes out of income taxes, 42% comes out of sales tax. Then we've got property, license, and other taxes. Miscellaneous stuff. Let's talk about the voters. And here's a problem, okay? Maryland voters don't like taxes. More than 70% of the voters oppose a tax increase. Generally, more than 60% of the voters oppose a tax increase strongly. They're very opposed. So the vast majority of people don't want a tax increase. Very few people are saying, hey, I don't care, go ahead, raise my taxes. That doesn't happen. This is a serious thing. This is the kind of thing that can turn a Democratic voter into a Republican voter. And that's a major consideration. Governor Wes Moore has got to run for reelection in 26. Can he make it? That's what we're talking about. Okay. This is the slide I have out of order. Forgive me for that. DLS comes up with these. The fiscal and policy note. This tells you how much the bill will cost the state um, on a bill by bill basis. And notice how at the top it says third reader. Okay. These bills can change a little bit on each reading. It goes up for a reading and a vote, and things can change. Also, if the chairman has issues with the bill, this bill may get referred back. Um, this may be reviewed. This may be scrutinized. It depends on how much of a issue this bill is as far as what goes into it and what costs. So DLS stays pretty busy with these fiscal and policy notes. Then it comes back down to these guys, Guzzone and Barnes. Um, and I'm using them as shorthand. Forgive me. Um, Barnes is appropriations in the House. Guzzone is budget and taxation in the Senate. But they're balancing this whole issue off. In other words, if we're starting to get to the point where we're up against the governor's budget, it could be the Senate that detects that, bounces it back, and starts talking to appropriations about the cost of individual bills. What did DLS find when they analyzed the bill and did the policy notes? That's a major consideration. Like I said, I'm skipping over a great deal of things, first, second, and third readings, and the committee hearings and all that. That all goes into the budget. But generally, that's not as crucial to the budget fight as appropriations and uh, budget and taxation and leadership. And so you may have to go back and take eighth grade civics again. Let's talk about why this is so crucially important. A lot of people look at Governor Wes Moore and see a bright, young, compared to presidential candidates, he's very young, bright young Democrat who's very popular on the stump. He went out and campaigned for Vice President Harris, and the people loved him. Every place he went, he was a major success. People looked at him and said he's somebody who could be on a presidential ticket as president or vice president. Let's just say he's being scrutinized for higher office. To get to that point, he's got to get through the budget crisis. If he comes out of this as a tax and spend Democrat, he's in trouble. And waiting in the tall grass is Larry Hogan. Now, Maryland's got something that most states don't. Normally, 2 terms, when there's term limits, 2 terms and you're done. Okay. Maryland is 2 terms, and then you can't have another term until you're out for one full term. So Hogan's been out for one full term, which means that he is eligible to run for governor in 26. The way he won in 2014, I guess that's getting to be ancient history, but just to briefly go over that, Hogan ran in 2014, and what he did was he claimed that Governor O'Malley, good and saintly Martin O'Malley, passed 44, pushed through 44 tax increases. Hogan is a lying and sniveling coward, but he pushed it. Anthony Brown wasn't sharp enough to slip slide that one away. But really, what it came down to was Hogan said 44 unneeded tax increases, and everybody is like, "Oh, I'm paying too much taxes. I don't want to pay any more taxes. I'm getting killed by these guys." Well, here's the thing that nobody ever seems to remember. Hogan gets in on the basis of supposedly 44 unneeded tax increases. He gets in as governor. Guess how many of them he rescinded? One, and part of another. He left 42 and a half of the unneeded tax increases in place, and he spent the money. He could have put into his budget to get rid of those taxes and give the money back to the taxpayers, but actually they weren't unneeded. They were very much needed. There was all showboating for Hogan. He comes out of a Tea Party background, and they're used to just telling lies and exaggerations to get people cranked up. And that's who Hogan is. That's where he's from. Now, he got in as governor on the basis of a series of lies, and then he was a really bad governor. One of the things you have to understand is that all the states surrounding Maryland had double-digit annual growth in their economies, 11, 12, 13%. Maryland had like less than 3%. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was disastrous, which means that Maryland did not grow for the 8 years that Larry Hogan victimized the state, stealing state money to put it into real estate. Well, actually, to put it into roads to his real estate projects so he could make more money. He's a crook. Hogan's a crook. And but he's a clever crook, and he's going to come back. If Wes can't clean up the budget, Hogan's coming after him, and he's going to do the same thing. Whatever it comes out to, unneeded tax increases, tax and spend, big spending Democrats. That's the refrain. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter a bit. Larry Hogan's going to tell that lie, and people stand the chance of responding to it. As we saw in the polling data, over 70% strongly oppose tax increases. So he's going to come on out, and if there's a tax increase, he's coming after Governor Moore, and Governor Moore could have the battle of his life. And here's the problem: if he can't win re-election strongly in 26, he can't run for president or vice president in 28. If he gets battered or bruised, or God forbid he should lose, but if he loses in 26, he's out of the picture for 28. So that's why this whole thing is so critically important. Um, Keep in mind, the delegates and the senators like their voters, like their state, and love their lobbyists. These guys are coming on up and pushing money towards them. And these guys get carried away chasing the money. Like, look at Senator Malcolm Augustine from Prince George's County. Last year, he took a big chunk of money to sell out the voters of Baltimore. See, he pushed through a big rate increase for BGE. And he knew he was safe doing it because his voters are Pepco customers. But why is a guy from Prince George's County pushing through huge rate increases for Baltimore ratepayers? That's the real question. Why did Malcolm Augustine do it? I think it's because he's a crook. But, the lobbyists had something to do with it. They did. These guys are very responsive to the lobbyists. Um, And the lobbyists are going to be coming in and saying, you can't cut our budget. Our program is so important. It doesn't matter whether it's the poor, the blind, or the needy. It doesn't matter who these people are. The lobbyists are going to fight any decrease in spending. At the same time, if they don't decrease the spending, it's going to severely hurt Moore. And if Moore gets hurt and Larry Hogan gets back in, we're going to see 4 to 8 more years of no growth in the Maryland economy. And it's going to be bad for the state. He was a bad governor. And people who don't realize that are generally people who can't get past their own greed and realize the bigger picture. And that's the end of this program. I'm Barry O'Connell, and you're always welcome to stop by at my Facebook group, Everybody's Maryland Politics. Thank you very much, and I hope you appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. That's really what it is. I hope you enjoyed this program.